and welcome to the first edition of Spirit Time, brought to you by Heavenly Spirits. I'm Daniel Cooney.
And I'm Christine Cooney.
This is the first of what we expect to be several training videos that we're creating to share with our American distribution partners and anyone else interested in learning about quality French spirits.
But before we begin, we would like to raise a glass to anyone working on the front line to help in the battle against the COVID-19 virus. We hope this is over soon, but until it is, we encourage everyone to stay safe
and to drink well. The category of spirits that we'll be talking about in this episode is
French whiskey. Before the pandemic kept us homebound, Dan and I would travel all over the country visiting with our distributors, conducting seminars and tastings, and attending trade shows to promote our Heavenly Spirits portfolio, which of course includes wonderful French whiskies. But in the process of introducing these whiskies to different audiences, we would often hear people say,
"I didn't know the French made whiskey."
Well, the French actually do make whiskies, and whiskey aficionados around the world are beginning to take notice.
For example, before we talk about some of the more recent developments on the subject of French whiskey, we'd like to share some history and a few important facts.
First of all, France has been distilling spirits for over 700 years.
Wow.
So we wonder, why did it wait so long to make whiskies?
Excellent question.
Sure is. Looking into history books and references, it appears that whiskey was actually being produced and enjoyed in France at the court of the Duke Stanislas of Lorraine in 1750.
Now there's a good-looking whiskey drinker.
Unfortunately, in 1789, a widespread famine in France forced the farmers to use their barley and other grains exclusively for making bread. As a result, whiskey production just vanished.
At that point, France had already perfected the art of making great wines and great brandies. This began with Armagnac in the 13th century. Then, 300 years later, Cognac and Calvados became popular, very popular. So, enjoying a sterling reputation for quality in those two categories, or three already, I guess France decided to leave the coarse, rustic grain whiskey to the Scots.
Of course, that's an interesting choice of word.
Of course.
In any case, by the time France started to think about making whiskey again, Scotland had already become the reputable whiskey-producing giant that it is today. During the 1950s, some of the international drinks group with large interest in Scottish whiskey began flooding the French market with blended whiskey labels such as Johnny Walker, Ballantine's, William Grant's, Chivas Regal. And whiskey drinking took off as a popular option in France, especially as an aperitif, which we enjoy before dinner.
This trend only increased as whiskey was featured in popular Hollywood movies and television shows like Dallas.
Wow, 1980s, huh? That's my childhood.
It should be noted that a few of these big drink groups who had financial interest in some of the popular Scotch brands were French, such as Pernod Ricard, La Martiniquaise, and Moet Hennessy. These French groups had a kind of monopoly. The whiskey category seemed saturated with big Scotch brands that made good whiskeys. So I guess the French remained somewhat complacent about creating their own.
However, because France has everything needed to make 100% French whiskies, including the best grain in Europe, very known, natural water source, like in Cognac or Brittany or Lorraine.
Good spring water.
Yep. A diversity of barrels from our winemaking traditions,
Lots to choose from.
malting abilities, and also the distillation expertise. So it was only a matter of time before France got on the bandwagon of producing great whiskies.
And that brings us to the mid-1980s. In Brittany, France,
Right
when
there.
Gilles Lesor, owner of of Distillarie Warengham returned from a trip across the channel to Scotland, and he began exploring the whiskey making possibilities. His 100-year-old distillery on the coast of Brittany had fallen into a bit of a slump. They were known for their elixirs, liqueurs, and mead, but they were not as popular as they once were. So Gilles committed himself to pioneering a way to create and produce a 100% French whiskey.
Oh, and the experiment was a huge success.
Yes, it was, and still is.
Yeah. Today, Distillarie Warengham is widely known for its award-winning flagship brand of French-made, Celtic-inspired Armorik Single Malt whiskies. Armorik Single Malt remains the leader in the French whiskey category. However, they are far from being alone.
More on that later. And now we'd like to share a few facts on the current state of French whiskey.
And some of these facts might even surprise you. For example, did you know that 38% of all spirits sold in France are whiskies?
And France is also the biggest consumer by volume of blended Scotch whiskey in the world, led by Ballantine's, Chevis, and Johnny Walker. This is a great bar bet you will never lose. Almost never.
Also worth noting, Armorik is the #1 selling single malt Scotch whiskey in France today. France is also the biggest consumer of all whiskies per capita, consuming more than 2 liters per person per year.
I think that aperitif thing you're talking about has a lot to do with that. You guys love your aperitifs.
You're probably right. We do enjoy our aperitif.
Not only that, but 75% of all whiskies produced in France are single malt, whereas the world production of single malts is only 20%.
And it shows that France always reach for quality, as usual.
Going for the gold.
Yep.
And you did know, and did you know, 35 years ago, there was only one distillery making whiskey in France, Armorik. Today there are at least 70 distilleries attempting to make French whiskies, and they bring 92 different brands to the market.
Attempting, huh? I guess everyone has to start somewhere. Back in 2015, Brittany and Alsace were granted the IGP and IGP for their respective regions. However, currently there is no legal definition for French whiskey other than the European Union guidelines, which is 100% grain, 3 years of aging.
But in January of 2016, the Fédération du Whisky de France was founded. How's that?
I love your accent.
It was founded and is now directed by the renowned whiskey guru Philippe Jouget. The objective of this federation is to, 1, promote French whiskies, 2, define and regulate the category, and 3, to fight against counterfeits. Apparently the label Made in France sells.
It sure does. In 2018, 1 million bottles of French whiskey were sold worldwide, and it's continuing to grow.
Wow.
On our side of the Atlantic, roughly 10 brands of French spirits are currently available in the US, including Roussier, Brenne, Domaine des Hautes Glaces, Bastille, Bellevoie, Vicomte, Cornag, and more recently Lucien Géraud. And of course, the one, the only, the original wheat ram, our beloved Armorik.
Armorik.
Who now offers a wide range of award-winning expressions, with even more on the way.
Yes, oui. Which one is your favorite?
Ooh, I'm not sure. I might have to tell you that in part 2.
There's a part 2?
Mais oui. Well, this concludes our episode on French whiskies. We hope you enjoyed it and perhaps learned a thing or two.
I don't know about you, Christine, but I think we earned a little wee dram of our own. What do you think?
Absolutely. Stay tuned for part 2, where we will be tasting a whole flight of Armorik Single Malt, and we hope to have David Roussier, the owner and director of the Warengham Distillery, join us through the miracle of the internet.
Great. Sounds good. Thank you for watching. For more information on our amazing Heavenly Spirits brands, please check out our webpage, which should be listed below here somewhere. Until then,
Goodbye.
goodbye and au revoir.